Okay, good. So, well, welcome to another episode of Amazing Individuals, where we talk to individuals with intellectual disabilities and people that support them. Today, we are going to talk to Amanda. She is a Special Olympics athlete from California, as well as an author, poet, and life coach. She has also had some of her work published in Ability Magazine, in Autism Storytelling, National Public Radio, Worldwide Coaching Magazine, Autism Parenting Magazine, and PBS America Portrait. Hi, Amanda, and thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Could you please tell our listeners where you're from and how long you've been doing Special Olympics?
Absolutely. I'm from the Bay Area in California. I've only been doing Special Olympics for about 3 years. Yeah, I started in 2018.
Well, that's good. And what sports do you compete in?
Just 2 sports, but I give them my all. That's bowling and bocce ball. I find bocce ball to be the most fun, the most rewarding. I find it to be a big stress reliever. Like it's really calming to go and like throw that ball and either attempt to hit the palina or get like slightly close to hitting the palina. But and I knew nothing about bocce ball when I signed up for it, so I just figured it was one of those things I would just try, and I ended up absolutely loving it.
No, I definitely agree. I do think that, yeah, it is a stress reliever, I mean, because, you're able to hit something like you said, but it's also, I don't know if you guys practice outdoors, but, we do, and
We do, yeah.
we practice during the summer. So, it kind of just gives that sense of calming a little bit. So,
Yeah. And
so.
hey, there's nothing wrong with getting to hit something. That's why I like bowling, when I'm able to hit pins, hey, you get to knock stuff down. So bam.
Oh no, I definitely agree. I used to be able to do bowling, but then I dislocated my thumb, so I'm not able to do it anymore. So, but
Oh wow.
I enjoyed it though when I used to. So, but yeah. How did you get involved in Special Olympics?
Yeah. So I actually was recovering from a procedure. I developed a detached retina. I have what's known as retinopathy of prematurity. So my lovely little retina decided to detach. So I went through the painstaking process of getting my retina reattached. And one of the fun parts is you get to spend 5 days after you get the procedure, you get to spend 5 days face down in a lovely little contraption. And you literally have to sleep like that. And as I was recovering from that process, my mom was like, she read the paper and said they have a track meet at one of the local high schools for people involved in the Special Olympics. Do you want to go? And I was like, well, I just had, eye surgery, but, why not? So I ended up going, and I ended up absolutely loving it, just watching the high schoolers go ahead and compete and run around the track. But the one thing that really struck me that said I really wanted to do this was at the start of the competition, everybody rose for the Special Olympics oath. And that's when my heart opened. I heard that oath and I said, that's going to be me one day. I want to try it. What do I do? So,
That oath means a lot. And even when I watch, like regular sports or whatever, and then you see, it just, I don't. It's like, yeah. I always tell my husband, even though maybe your favorite team's lost, I always think about the oath and say both teams played their hearts out, and that's all that matters. That they have fun, and and that's kind of how if you can approach life like that, I think you'll be successful at whatever you do. So
Yeah, absolutely, especially that last line in the oath, be brave in the attempt. Which means even to me anyway, even if you fail at something, as long as you're brave and at least trying to attempt it and accomplish it, honestly, as we say in the life coaching world, all is well. I mean, it fits in so well with how not just Special Olympics athletes, but I think those of us in general just going through life, I feel that all of us should just kind of have a brave in the attempt attitude, or even just like a brave in the attempt mindset, because we face these struggles and these obstacles every day, perhaps more so for those of us with intellectual disabilities, but even for those who don't have any type of disability. Being brave in the attempt is important.
Oh, I definitely agree. So yeah, actually, that kind of leads into one of my next questions. So, what are some of the things that you do as a disability empowerment coach?
Yeah. Well, exactly what you and I are doing right now, that whole sense and that whole mindset of just encouraging, and that whole sense and that whole mindset of being in a heart space or a soul space, and just allowing my clients to just be, come as you are. You don't have to be perfect for me. That's not the point. The point is, come as you are, and we're going to work through things together. I don't like using the word issues, quote unquote, with my client, because it's not an issue. It's a different way of doing things. It's a different way of learning. It's a different way of being. It's a different way of conquering a certain obstacle. So I think if more people with intellectual disabilities had encouragement and had love and had somebody to come on with the presence of joy, I think this world would be a better, happier place and experience, because so many times when we deal with intellectual disabilities, we're counted out a lot. We're counted out, quite um, tremendously, because other people will hear of a certain diagnosis. Oh, this person has Down syndrome. Well, they can't do anything. This person has autism. Well, forget them. This person has cerebral palsy. Are you kidding me? Well, and that's the other thing that I love so much about the Special Olympics. And I loved being able to go through my coaching program also while being fairly active with the Special Olympics. That was actually the same summer that I got to go to the Summer Games. So I think being able to go ahead and intertwine what I learned as a coach, but also being an active participant on the field as a Special Olympics athlete, I think that further helped to define my work, because I, there's so many coaches out there who work with people who own, like, Fortune 500 companies, and people who work in companies where they own like scads of money and things like that. And I'm here to work with the, as I call the forgotten population, because if we don't stand up for the forgotten population, nobody will. And the wonderful thing about being a global ambassador is that I get to take the reins and basically say, okay, so this is what we're going to do. And regardless of whether I have autism or not, I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to be that light and that grace and the presence in the world that we are lacking. I'm going to go ahead and take that mirror and invite others without disabilities to go ahead and look at what they've been missing. They've been missing the mark when it comes to people with intellectual disabilities, and it's time for that to stop. So,
Oh, I definitely agree, especially with COVID now too. It's like, they talk about, in my feeling is that we need to advocate. It's more important for us to advocate for ourselves now than ever, because if you hear everybody in the news, they're talking, there's more coverage about, like seniors or everybody else, but they're not really talking about, our population, the people with, intellectual disabilities that much, and how it affects, us, because I know, I don't know about you guys, but I know like some of our friends, it's like, it just kills them not to be able to be as active or not to be part of our sports or, do, have that routine. So,
Absolutely. I think that that's kind of the effect in the field, really nationwide, possibly countrywide, in terms of the Special Olympics and the Special Olympics athletes, because those of us within the Special Olympics, I can speak for myself that I don't see it as like something stressful, and I don't necessarily see it as a job. I see it as fun, and I see it as a way to go ahead and make friends. And I see it, as I mentioned earlier, with bocce ball being such a stress reliever. So I really loved, a couple of years ago, being able to step into my power and be trained as an ambassador, and really getting to find my voice in the community of those of us with intellectual disabilities, because I absolutely love just like advocating through my poetry and advocating through just this excuse me, the struggles that are associated, quote unquote, with people who have intellectual disabilities. So being able to be a voice for the organization was truly a godsend. And I, really enjoyed going through the training and still continuing to go through additional trainings here in California, because I want to be able to grasp as much of the knowledge that I can, because I enjoy being an activist.
yeah, and it just seems like to me, it's like, when you are an activist or like, when an ambassador or whatever, and, it just gives you a chance to give back a little bit, and then also maybe to help others that maybe are afraid to use their voice in, a certain way.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and reached out to you as well. And one of the things I love about two of my program staffers here in Northern California, Tyler, who's our PR person, he also runs the athlete leadership program, and Amanda, who runs our healthy athletes program. Now, the two of them, everybody needs a Tyler and everybody needs an Amanda, especially in the Special Olympics corner, because both of them are just so loving and open and just, generous with the feedback that they give me. And just, I joke around with my friends all the time. I was joking around with one of my friends who's a coach in my area, and I said with those two, I said they don't even have to worry about like finding like speaking opportunities for me, because I'm usually the one who's like texting them with, oh, I just got this opportunity, or I just decided to message this athlete on Facebook and I heard they had a podcast and just decided to. I love being able to invite them to the work that I'm doing.
Oh, most definitely. I think that it shows, our programs, that our athlete, if you're an athlete leader and things, it shows, when you reach out like that, I think it shows them the determination you have, and that the wantingness to, get the word out. So I think that, that kind of helps too. So, but,
Absolutely. I just want to do as much as I can on this platform as possible. And that's why I'm not shy about reaching out. I know that there are other there are different levels of being like an ambassador. There are some who are more laid back, and then there are some who are more outgoing, which is great. I love how, just like when we play our sports, we have our different levels, we have our different divisions, we have our different categories for how far you can go. And I think it's the same thing for the athlete leadership program. It was really interesting when I walked into the training a couple of years ago. We were on a break, and I went up to Tyler, who was conducting the training, and I said, "Hi, Tyler. I know you and I just met, and great class and everything. However, I just want to know, how the heck do I get on a billboard for the Special Olympics?" And he laughed a little bit and said, just look out for opportunities. But I was dead serious. And I think they pretty much know that I was, serious, given by like the actions, because I'm always, doing something to go ahead and promote the Special Olympics. So one of the things I decided to do was officially go ahead and branch out. And I said, I'm going to check out and see what some of the other states are doing to see, what California can learn from this.
That's a good thing. Yeah, Illinois. I'm in Illinois, and we're actually branching out. We're working with we're collaborating with some things with Maryland, so that kind of helps out, And I think it does help when you kind of reach out to different programs because you see what they're doing, and you see what you're doing, and see how maybe you can, improve the program a little bit. So.
Right. And you mentioned that you're also working with Maryland. I randomly reached out to Special Olympics Maryland, and I've also been working with Maryland's program as well. So they've interviewed me a couple of times and invited me to events. So in fact, that may have been how I actually got connected with you, I believe.
Yeah, it might have been. I mean, Jason or somebody might have,
Yeah. It was Jason. I believe he posted something about you, and I was like, hey.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. So yeah. So anyway, I wanted to get and talk to you about a little bit of how you became a poet and how it felt to get your poems published.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder in 2016, and I wasn't quite sure how I was feeling about my diagnosis at that time. So I was in my room one night and grabbed a pen and paper or a cell phone, whichever one is more convenient, and began writing just randomly out of the clear blue. I had such an influx of emotions: sadness, joy, anger. I received my diagnosis of autism at the age of 26. And that's late. The research.
I got mine when I was in my 30s, I think. So.
Oh, okay. So you're right around there with me. The research indicates that females on the autism spectrum, they're diagnosed, a little bit later. But this is, well, for us, well into adulthood. So it's like, what's been going on for all this time? So it really set off a light in my mind that I was going to take this diagnosis and learn to do something with it that would be so positive. And I remember at some point, actually, no, I was at a church event for Halloween, and I mentioned to one of the parents of another child with autism, I just got diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum. And she said, my son is part of the Special Olympics. Print out the application. And it didn't happen at that time. It wouldn't happen until like 2 years later. So yeah.
And then how did it feel to have your poems published?
Hallelujah. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I think my first publication was oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Newspaper in Berkeley, the Berkeley Times. That was my first real publication. And a good friend of mine, Alexander Singh, was the gentleman that we mentioned earlier that I was actually engaged to. Mm-hmm. But he's super wonderful. He told me to submit to the Berkeley Times, and I did. I was elated to see my words and my name in print, and I said, I want to do this again. So after that, I began submitting to my church. We come out with, a monthly, or excuse me, it's a, bulletin that we have for, all the Sundays that we attend. So my pastor suggested that, well, I'm going to put it in the first Sunday. So I have several spiritual poems in there. I submitted so many of those. I recently just collected those and, just cut them out and stuck them all in a binder. So that was a lot of fun. So that's a little bit how I got started with, publishing poetry. And then I really wanted to branch out. I said, well, if that works, then I know they have poets on the radio. And I would go with my dad Saturday mornings to run errands with him. And I noticed that they had, various programs that would come on NPR. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get on NPR one day. And I said it, I kept saying that and kept throwing it into the atmosphere until it finally happened.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's always good to, and to have a goal, and, that way you can, set your, and to meet it. So that's a good thing. So, during this time of COVID, are there any struggles that, maybe, you struggle with more than if we didn't have COVID?
Yeah, I think much like, many of the athletes have come to me and said, I feel isolated, I feel scared, I feel hopeless. I think many of us are, feeling the effects of that. For me, I went to my poetry and began writing, different you know poems about how I was feeling about being isolated, and different topics that come with just being on lockdown when you're on the autism spectrum. That's a whole different can of worms, but definitely something that needs to be addressed. um I miss, to be honest with you, the thing that I really miss is I miss being in my church. I miss being with my church family, honestly. I mean, you can call them on the phone, you can text them all night if you want to, but there's, to me, nothing like worshiping in a sacred place. We have online services and everything, but it's not the same. I find myself, really struggling with that, and just trying to get acclimated to what my Sundays look like, because it's really something that I, look forward to, because, with the condition, with my vision and with my autism and everything, I don't drive. So it's really, truly one of the things I look forward to, or looked forward to, because we would, have a church service, and then I would grab like a group of friends and we would go out and have like a 2-hour lunch date. And when that was taken away from me, it was one of the things that was, really hard to cope with, because you miss everybody, you miss that fellowship, you miss that time to commune with God, you miss the interactions that you have.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think that there's one thing to do everything like on Zoom or online and things, but to have that interaction with people, is, the best thing, because, I think that, not just people with intellectual disabilities, but I think everybody needs that, but I think it's a lot, harder for people like, us that, struggle with that even without COVID, but to have that taken away, that kind of, makes it, extremely hard then. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, do you think that women have a harder time than men with, that have intellectual disabilities, or do you think it's about the same?
I would say it's about equal. um about the same, because again, society looks at those of us with intellectual disabilities in a certain way, and they write us off before we even really get started. They make assumptions before we even open our mouths. So in this case, and I could be completely wrong, I'm not a researcher of this particular topic, but I feel that equally across the board, because you have an intellectual disability, you have someone who's judging you all the excuse me, someone who's judging you all the time. So it's really up to you to go ahead and make or break that mold and make or break that stereotype. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy proving the naysayers wrong. And I'll say that with confidence because I've done it so many times, starting from the time that I was born, when they said I was supposed to be institutionalized for disabilities. And that never happened. Another assumption that they had after I was born, that I would only live past 3 days. Of course, that didn't happen. And then, of course, you had the talk of being institutionalized after that. And then that never happened. So I enjoy making naysayers look foolish with these types of scenarios because they don't know.
Oh no, I definitely agree. It's like, they think that, in my view, like when I was growing up, it was like they didn't want us to be seen. So they, would, put us in separate try to put us in separate classrooms and things, and, luckily for me, and it sounds like for you too, I had a good family structure that, fought for me to be, no, you're gonna, I want her to be with regular, with not regular people, but with every student, so but I think it does make it hard when society doesn't see people, and they even when you, like you said, when you come out of the womb, it's like you're already being judged, so
You're
yeah.
you're being judged, you're being labeled. The one thing that I can say, I'm so thankful for, so it's just two of us, it's just my sister and I, and then my parents. But I would say, my mom specifically, she pushed me. My mother's a very strong Black woman who just didn't take no for an answer. And my dad is from Trinidad, so he's right there supporting everything that my mom said. And my sister and I were only 19 months apart, so for me growing up, it would be um for me to just, oh well, let me keep up with what Ashley's doing. If she's learning to ride a bike, then my mom would go out and buy me a bike too. If Ashley's participating in ceramics, then I would be in the ceramics class too. It doesn't matter if my art didn't look as well as hers or anybody else's. It's just the fact that I'd be able to do those things. And I was in the church choir as well. Even with my limited vision and the fact that I can't really sing, but it's just those opportunities which I think that we should be afforded and allowed. And for this case, it doesn't matter how well you do at the task. It's more of just acclimating you into that focus and that flow of being able to do what you see your general peers doing.
Oh, I agree, and I think that if they that if people allow us to try it, and if maybe we need somehow extra help, like doing something, but we can still try it. And they and and some things we might be better at than some other people. So just because we have a disability doesn't mean that we're not good at doing something, or that we can't do anything at all. So but that's just
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why I became like why I wanted to become like an athlete leader, is because it just makes me so frustrated knowing that people prejudge you all the time. So and then when, like, I'm going to become a health messenger in a couple of weeks, and because
good for
to
you.
me it's like when you go to a doctor's office, it's like kind of like prejudge you as well. So
Yep.
so it's nice when you can advocate for yourself. So
It is. You're gonna have fun with the health messenger program. I completed it back in October, learned some good things, learned some helpful diet tips that I can actually take back to some of my coaching clients. Many of the parents are um, looking to me for that wisdom. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? You hear about several different recipes that you can use for people who are on the autism spectrum. So I look forward to going and trying, just navigating with these parents, and seeing what we come up with in terms of health and in terms of nutrition for people on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I found out from the person actually that is in charge of our athlete leadership here in Illinois. She had mentioned that she learned that when students go to medical school, they're only I think she said there was only 2 weeks that they spend on how to treat people with intellectual disabilities, which I think is so sad. I mean, they should.
I know, right? Well, I mean, I believe it, because in some cases they look at you like you're foreign territory. In some cases they look at you like you grew a second head. In some cases they look at you like you're from planet blah, blah, something.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Well, and especially during this time of COVID, it's so hard because I mean, a lot of places, I mean, like here, we're just now being able to have somebody go with us if we're sick enough to go to the ER. But before, they wouldn't let you in with with anybody else. And I had a couple of friends that would go in, and they would see them as having intellectual disabilities, and depending upon what they were sick with, they kind of were like pushing them off to a corner, or not wanting to, treat them. So,
right. I mean, I don't know. I think that there needs to be more of a push and a pull for those of us who need like the extra help due to our disabilities, to have like those of us who have like aides or caregivers or whatever terminology you want to use, to have them really be a part of our support plan. I went to a doctor's appointment on Monday, and this had been really like my first time leaving the house in literally months, because I haven't gotten the vaccine yet. So this was really my first time leaving the house in months. And I heard my sister down the hallway telling, I guess she was one of the nurses or perhaps one of the coordinators, my sister's vision impaired. Am I allowed to sit with her until she goes back there? So she did, and all is well. We got everything done, but it's it's true. Right now, it's a feeling of loneliness. It's a feeling of isolation. It's a feeling of what happens next. And as we know, people with disabilities, we need those support persons. A lot of us do, those support personnel to accompany us to the doctor's appointments, or accompany us to the grocery store, or accompany us to wherever. So we need to do something.
Oh, I definitely agree. So, well, thank you for joining me today. Before we end, I just have one last question, and then I was wondering if you could share a poem with us too. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So, the question I would like to follow up is, if you could give any advice to people with intellectual disabilities, what would it be?
Keep going.
That's
fighting.
That's good. That's good advice.
Don't stop. Don't let your disability be a hindrance to what you're going to do in life. If that had happened to me, then I wouldn't be where I am. I have a very good friend of mine, Judy Human. I don't know if you saw her documentary Crip Camp.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah. We talk quite often, actually. And I was actually texting her, and I said, you know what? I said, you are an absolute rebel in everything that you do. And I said, I just want to thank you for the foundation that you laid, so you can allow me to go ahead and rise up and rebel in the poetry that I write.
Yeah, that was, at first I wasn't sure when I was watching it, if what direction it was going to go, because there's sometimes when those kind of documentaries go a different direction, and and so, but it was really enjoyable, and it was neat to see how that movement started. So got started. So, and it made me, like you said, it made me feel proud to continue, and to use my voice to, advocate for other people as well. So
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I enjoy the work that she's done. Um, Same thing, the work of Eunice Kennedy Shriver with the Special Olympics. I love the fact that major disability movements were headed by women, and I just
oh
noticed that. And I was like, you know what? Well, I'm gonna rise up and keep this movement going, because women, we can and we will.
right, it's like, I think, you see, like leaders, like even like the president or whatever, the United States, being men, but then, now we have like a vice president that's a woman,
Absolutely.
and that kind of, but like you said, like in Eunice, Eunice Shriver kind of, starting this whole, movement, and it just kind of gives you hope for, that you just don't have to be, it's not just men that can start making a change and starting things. So yeah. Well, thank you for joining me today. Like I said, I think if you'd like, we could end by maybe having you, recite one of your poems.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much for having me. And I will end with this. It's a fairly recent poem of mine called Spread the Word. Spread the word. Spread the word all around the globe. We no longer have to be discriminated against for our disabilities. When you see someone with autism, make them shine. Spread the word. You can no longer call me out of my name. So I ask that you kindly refrain. Protect our vocabulary from such heinous language. The R word is like a snake spewing venom. It breaks hearts. It will dehumanize us all. Spread the word. It's like poison to our souls. It needs to stop. We are better than this. Spread the word. The word retarded has no place among us. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And it was great to have you on my show today, and hopefully we can stay in touch. So, and I look forward to maybe working with you sometime in the future, and maybe hopefully in person sometime, So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Let's do it. On a final note, I run a poetry night. We're definitely looking into expanding. So I will definitely connect with you when we decide to get that up and going. Perhaps you'd like to come recite some poetry, or you could just hang out with us.
Oh,
Definitely.
that'd be cool. I guess the only time I've been to California was when, what was it? Yeah, when my aunt and uncle used to live in Fresno. So that I've only been there once, so I haven't got a chance to go back. So
Nice. This is through Zoom, so you can feel free to join us on Zoom. But definitely, yeah. When you come back to California, let's hang out in person.
yeah. Well, yeah. My husband was born in Oakland, but he doesn't remember it. But he was born in California, so he wants to go back sometime and kind of see what it's like as well. So
Okay, yeah. I went to university in Oakland, so cool.
yeah, that is cool. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. So
Absolutely, you as well.
okay,
All right, bye.
bye.